So on my immediate left, Megan Pagliuca from Merkle, Vin Paolozzi from Cadreon. Thank you for a little round of applause for me getting both those names right. Appreciate that. David Rowley from BlogHer, and Matt Spengler from Rodale. And I'll do just a real quick bit of context on the companies. I won't do the formal bios. Those are in the books. You can read those on your own. But Megan and Vin come from Merkle and from Cadreon, respectively. Cadreon, of course, is the trading desk for IPG and media brands. And Megan runs the trading practice at Merkle, which is an independent standalone agency. And if you had to sort of say that they're both kind of in the same business, but Vin's parents were agency people and Megan's parents were data geeks. So that's where Merkle and Cadreon kind of come from. Then with BlogHer is, if you want to think about it, an easy metaphor, kind of like the federated media, but of all the best women bloggers in the entire country and in the entire world, all brought together. And if you don't know the name Rodale, I'm an old-time magazine player myself, so I know them very well. But you would know Men's Health, Women's Health, Runner's World, organic gardening, and the like. So please give a quick round of applause for our panelists for joining us up here. All right, so the good stuff. So first of all, I called my 86-year-old mom, Pat, this morning, and I like to keep her up to date on what I'm doing. And I told her that I was going to lead a discussion at a big conference. She said, honey, what's the discussion about? And I said, private marketplaces. And she said, oh, that sounds lovely, dear. What is that anyway? So I said, you know what, I'll call you back after the panel, Mom. So these guys are going to give me something I could tell my 86-year-old mom to describe what the hell a private marketplace is anyway. So let's start over here with Megan.
Sure. So private marketplaces is really simply the automation of a direct relationship between an agency and a publisher, or a marketer and a publisher. So I think at the end of the day, I think about it as pipes or technology that makes us having a relationship easier.
Okay. All right. I'm going to try that with her, but she might be a little confused still. Vin?
Maybe.
I mean, it's certainly very complex, but I'd like to think of it as, at times, like a flea market, right? So you want to go to some place where you can get really quality goods, but you don't want to have to travel to all the different retailers to go and find that. So you have one location where you have an efficiency around going and finding quality products that you can then choose what you want to use for the creation of your menu that you're looking for.
Okay, so she likes metaphors and similes, so that's good. We're getting in the right direction here.
Yep. Vin kind of stole mine, but yeah, I would have her picture her local supermarket that she loves to go to. It's friendly, it's safe, she knows everyone there, great quality meats, vegetables, but instead of all that, it's digital ad inventory as opposed to CPG or food or vegetables.
Okay. Matt?
I thought Megan had a great sort of dictionary definition, but the way sometimes I'll describe it, or just sort of programmatic in general, as I talk about, if I was talking to my grandmother, say, well, back in the early 80s, maybe you used to buy your stocks through a broker, but now today, you can go on E-Trade and you can access the market directly and buy your own stocks, the things that you want in a kind of a private and a one-to-one way.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I want to sort of throw in my own sort of quasi-definition here, and I'm going to kind of be the village idiot on the panel today because I want to just try and really advocate for, for that person in the audience who's still struggling with what this is, because, private marketplaces are a little bit like, the angels among us. I mean, only the true believers can really see them. So we're trying to figure out what this actually is. So let's start off with sort of, we'll call it the bottom layer of the marketplace, which is the open exchanges, all RTB bidding just going on. So the publisher's putting the stuff that they can't sell, don't want to sell in that layer. And then up at the top, they've got the direct sale where we're trading an IO for some guaranteed space and so forth. These private exchanges live someplace in the middle, right? So see if you can describe that middle to me. Tell me what the private exchange relationship is like between a given publisher and a trading desk, or in your case, an agency.
Well, I think you have to kind of set the context of what are how we think about buying, what are the types of buying, right? We have our direct relationships with publishers where we call them on the phone and we send them ad tags, right? We have our programmatic guaranteed relationships where it's essentially workflow automation. And then we have private exchange, we have the RTB environment, which includes both open as well as private exchange or private marketplace buying. So how we will work with publishers is we'll still get on the phone and talk to publishers. We'll talk about what is the floor. We'll understand what sites they have available and customize it into our media plans. But we're working with them in the same way we're working with the direct buys, but we have, it's much easier to work with them because of the automation and workflow.
Okay, so what exactly is for sale in a private marketplace? I mean, what is actually being bid on? Is it space? Is it audiences? Is it a combination of both?
I'd say it's all three, right? I think it really depends on the objectives of the campaigns that we're running for our clients. So there are certain clients that are going to look for really rich contextual environments that they could be safe and build their brand around. They're also going to look for audience-based opportunities where they can find the right audience that aligns with the demographics of their brand. In addition to that, and it can be consumer-based, we're using first-party data to understand who is an auto enthusiast and whose lease will be up in the matter of 6 months, and we want to start to talk to those people and engage with them to help them understand, that our brands are valuable for them.
So this one's for Dave and Matt. So if you think about, so when you guys have both leaned into this concept and you've established private marketplaces. So what's actually going on in there? What's actually being transacted? What's being bought from you?
Good question. A lot of different things. So when you talk about programmatic, when you talk about private marketplace and just relationships between buyers and sellers, that can take a lot of different permutations. What we've seen is, at least to start off with, a relationship usually starts with one deal ID that is run of network, just so they can get a sense of what our inventory looks like, and they layer their own data on top of that.
So they do kind of initially a pilot program saying, hey, let's just run our user ID across everything, and then we'll kind of see what you got. We'll see whether this is a store we like to buy in.
Right. And then over the past couple months, we've actually just started to put in a little bit more of our own first-party data. So contextual data segments, behavioral data segments, and some of our partners have been able to start testing with that as well.
So in your case, it sounds like the large portion of what you're selling in the private marketplace is who, not where. You're not really selling specific contextual placements. You're selling to people.
It's both, actually. I mean, the nice thing about BlogHer is it does have a fantastic demographic with women, plus also super valuable context in the sense that it is authentic conversation. These are blogs that, where the women are passionate about what they do, whether it's parenting or food or fashion, you name it. So the context is rich. The data signals based on that is rich. So from the testing that we've seen so far, we think it's going to be very powerful.
Okay. Matt, give us a different read on it. So what's your, when you in the private marketplaces that you've established, what's the actual flow of goods? What's actually happening there?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically twofold. We sort of have our endemic and non-endemic. So a non-endemic might be, Rodale is focused around health and wellness and fitness. We maybe have a financial service company who's testing us in the open market, bidding for inventory. They find that they're getting good results and good performance. Maybe we're going to reach out to them. That maybe they're going to come to us to set up something private where they can access our inventory in a kind of get more flow from us. The other might be where we're working with a Nike or one of our core advertisers, and they want to test programmatic. They want to start to look at flowing inventory through the pipes in this kind of manner. And in that case, we set up something private. And maybe it's just run of Rodale, maybe it's run of our women's sites. Totally depend on kind of the goals and objectives and what what they're looking for. Maybe based on past experience or just on what they think the notion of what might be successful for them.
Okay, so a little audience participation here. Raise your hand if you're still confused about what a private marketplace is. Anyone? No? There's one guy over there that's as slow as I am. Okay, so good. So we did a good job of describing what it is. I want to parse the term just one more time though, because I want to get into, we've described kind of the middle, the private marketplace. Is it not true that there are truly private marketplaces that's one advertiser and one publisher, let's say, and then there are semi-private marketplaces, which is, Matt sets up a private marketplace that only includes a handful of major brands. Yes?
For us, what we care about is being higher in a publisher's prioritization chain, right? So if it's us and multiple advertisers, or if it's just us, either way, I think it's fine, but we want better.
Sounds like you'd be higher in the chain if it was just you.
I think
That's kind of, there's only one link on the chain at that point.
I think that is based on how publishers decide to prioritize their inventory, right? If they have like 15 prioritization levels, or if they have 3, then then it's a different scenario. So we'll typically ask publishers that question, like, how do you prioritize your inventory?
Okay.
And then decide based on that of what type of deal we set up.
So Vin, do you think, am I right about this distinction between sort of private and semi-private? Is that
I think you're right. I think there's a number of variables that go into buying through private marketplaces, and it really comes back down to in the true, the true understanding of private marketplaces is really the collaboration between the buyer and the seller, and making sure that you're having really strategic conversations around what are the needs of my clients and what am I looking to buy to be able to return some sort of a performance metric for my client. And when you're doing that, you're aligning it to the assets that the publisher has. So that could be something as broad as run of network, just trying to expand an audience, or it could be something as direct as I need to buy your autos channel where I can find auto endemic opportunities.
So let's pick a brand, not an automotive, that you bid for. Who would it be?
MasterCard.
Okay, so we start off with MasterCard, and you're gonna you're gonna do a deal with David, and you say, all right, so David, we want to do a private marketplace. Okay, so the question I'm going to ask you both is, what leads you to want to do a private marketplace arrangement in the first place, right? So we'll ask we'll start with you, Vin, and then we'll go to David and Max. I really want to understand kind of what leads us into this arrangement in the first place.
Yeah, so I think our approach to it is similar to what David was talking about earlier. Is the first level is we want to connect at as broad a level as possible and let the technology help us identify the overlap in the audiences that we're trying to buy. So we consider that a foundational level of connection. Let us run against all of the assets that you have, and let's see what works.
Stop there. That's a good answer, but not to the question I asked. So I want to make sure that I'm clear on that. So what I'm asking is, okay, so he's got an option of either selling direct to MasterCard, or just dumping his inventory into an open exchange, right? But he's chosen a path to the middle. You've chosen a path in the middle here. You've said, I can't, there's something that I can't get either on the open exchange, and that maybe I don't want to sort of, buy direct because of inefficiency or whatever, right? So I'm asking the motivation question. What makes you want to do a private marketplace over some other instrument?
Well, okay, perfect. So, but I was getting there. Right? But the point is that we're looking at. That's okay. We were getting there in the understanding of where those audiences are first and foremost. So the ability to identify the audiences that work with my client's needs, and then the ability to be strategic about having an understanding and a conversation around what those assets are that are meaningful to MasterCard, or why we're having that conversation.
Okay.
Yep. And for us, the way that we look at it is we look at it advertiser by advertiser. MasterCard is the type of advertiser that we have had a hard time breaking into. We have done a couple custom activations with them, but it's been at a much more higher level, big budget, but just more custom. And I just feel like MasterCard is the kind of advertiser where there would be a lot more opportunity to work with them in a different channel like programmatic, as opposed to doing these bigger type of custom sponsorships or content creation. So it's really all about, to Vin's point, the objectives and what we can offer.
So what I hear from a number of my customers is more and more big advertisers are saying to us, yeah, we still want to do some direct with you, but we really need to bring our data into the mix here as well. We really need, we really want our data to work with us within this programmatic space. So we need you to kind of, belly up to the bar and work with us on this. So is that a motivation that's driving some of these relationships as well? Is the marketers kind of dictating, these are our terms, we believe in programmatic and we want to go there?
I think the agencies are dictating that for sure. From an advertiser level, advertisers want positive results, right?
Right.
But I think we see better results in programmatic, so we are pushing publishers to get there. I do think we think about it differently than publishers are thinking about it. I think about first, okay, I can't spend any more in a DSP platform, so I need to extend the reach through private exchanges. And then after that, I'm going to extend the reach through programmatic guaranteed. I'm going to extend the reach to direct. I think we almost think about it the exact opposite of how publishers think about it, because they think, okay, I'm going to sell my direct, and I can't sell there, but I can't sell there.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the promises of programmatic, in the publisher's ear has always been, well, there's going to be this upward mobility of opportunity. In other words, it'll be on the open exchange, and then you might find opportunity there to sell to somebody who you didn't have visibility on. So we move them into a private exchange, or we do a direct deal with them. Matt, you've seen some of that in your work. I mean, are you seeing opportunities emerge from bidding environments that become something more?
We have. It's not a big part of our business, but we definitely have examples of people that started testing our inventory in the open market, saw success, continued to come back. We reached out to them and sort of moved it up the funnel as you've described it. But I think even still, it's just great data points to help us inform our understanding of our inventory, what it's worth, how to have conversations in the market, and educate our whole, really our whole sales staff on the process and how it's working. So, but yep, we do sometimes are able to use them as leads.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So, you're generating leads, you're identifying prospects, you're selling to customers. One question that I want to sort of throw out to all four of you, and this is the one time that I want to kind of go down the line, is to talk about kind of linkage in the business, right? Because one of the, 3 years ago, I got up at a conference like this. It wasn't a PubMatic conference, but what were then called private exchanges were all the rage. And I asked, the agency side people and the publishers, is there any linkage between two sides of the business? In other words, can you buy direct, if I do programmatic work with you, can I also get direct business, right? Now, Megan, you're an individual planning agency, so you can kind of make that call. Vin, what about you? Can you?
I mean, I think that's
tie the two sides of the business together?
I don't know that we're quite there yet today. I think that's where we're headed, as we're trying to be smarter about the data that we can collect across all the buying that's happening, and then how does that provide you with the understanding of the value of what you're providing for your client. So I don't know that we're quite there yet today, but I think our goal is to be able to utilize the data that we're gathering through programmatic channels to be able to help inform us as to where we need to do smarter buying. And I do believe that over time we will be able to flip the model sort of on the side to be able to say, well, we've identified these audiences work within these publishers' environments. We should now go and talk to them about sponsorship opportunities and bigger picture opportunities that we could work on together.
Because frankly, one of the things that I think publishers were leery about for quite a while was, initially the idea of jumping into the big sort of the big demand pool that is the open exchange, that freaked them out a little bit. And then, the private exchanges, private marketplaces came into the fore, and the question was, well, am I cutting myself off from direct sales, from a direct relationship with the advertiser? Are they still going to buy my sponsorships and that kind of stuff? Or am I just potentially, discounting my business? What would you, I want to go one more time with you, Megan. What would you tell a publisher if they came to you with that concern?
Well, I think the best strategy isn't to kind of keep your head in the sand and not do anything because you're scared. I think the publishers that have had the most challenges are the ones that have just tried to protect any type of cannibalization. But I think we're getting there. I also think the programmatic guaranteed environment is a less scary environment for publishers because it's still in a reserved area. It's not, the CPMs aren't as cheap in programmatic guaranteed, so it's not going as badly. But I think we have to, publishers have to embrace it, or the dollars will just go to another publisher. So.
Yeah. So kind of the message is, don't be scared. You have to embrace it. It'll work out. We think. Trust us. Maybe.
Or keep your head in the sand and do nothing.
Or keep your head in the sand and do nothing. Okay. Well, that's certainly a viable option, in the media world. Why don't you guys go ahead and I'd like to get your thoughts on kind of the linkage in the business. Are you seeing customers that are healthy on both sides of the ledger that are programmatic and direct with you?
We see some programs where we've even linked programmatic to print deals that we've done, where it's an integrated sort of 360 opportunity. Again, those are the exception, not the norm. But I think, to Vince's point, it is a little bit of separate business right now. A lot of times I think they're separate budgets, so they aren't linked. So we see it as a bit separate, but to Megan's point, I think you've got to be involved, you've got to be testing, you've got to be learning. I think it's this is the cat's out of the bag, this isn't going away. So you have to be smart about it. Will there be some cannibalization of direct sales? Perhaps, but I think in the end, if you don't participate, there's a bigger loss,
David, are you seeing customers fall neatly into one column or the other? Are they a programmatic or exchange customer or a marketplace customer or a direct customer?
It definitely depends. I mean, when you get RFPs, you can definitely sniff out if there's a direct response kind of advertiser at play, and if that's the case, we'll definitely shift them towards a programmatic solution. But we're kind of a funny animal in the sense that we've had the private marketplace for about 9 months now. It's really just been me that's focused on trying to establish relationships and talking to the agency trading desks over the past eight months of that. Just recently, we released programmatic to our sellers, so it's still kind of a waiting game to see, to see what's going to come of it. But what we hope, obviously, the more you talk about it, the more it's going to be in the marketplace. We'd ideally like to take some of our top-tier clients that do a lot of custom stuff, that bring programmatic on with it, help make the overall CPM a little bit more efficient, plus also use programmatic for non-endemic advertisers that we really haven't been able to tap into yet.
Mm-hmm. So when you're in the process now of training the Rodale, print sellers, to have this in their toolkit as well.
Well, not me, no, BlogHer. But.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You're a BlogHer. I apologize for that.
Mm-hmm.
So just you're both so good looking at the end of the panel there, and I'm short-sighted.
That's all right.
So,
we both.
So let me ask a process question. So how does a private marketplace arrangement come into being? And I'm going to start with you on this one, Matt. How does it actually happen? So does the role of the outside seller who's out there calling on the agency, calling on the client, do they have a role in kind of helping this sort of come into being in the first place?
For us, they don't really at this point. I mean, I think those conversations are starting to happen. We're starting to see more activity around it, but that's not the main lead source for our private marketplace opportunities. I think some come from the open market, and we're able to see who's got interest and who's bidding on our inventory, and we sort of take it from there. Or we have direct relationships with folks like Vin and others where we're having those conversations. We're looking to see where there's a good match, where they're looking for reach or they're looking for the type of audience or data that we have. Mm-hmm. So I think it's really, for us at Rodale, it's really more in our central group as we're trying to discover and learn and do more of those programs, less as a part of our overall sales force at this stage.
Yeah. So in your case, I mean, you have you have a small team that's focused on that side of the business, and the direct sellers are out there doing what they do, trying to sell direct opportunities on the sites and in the magazine.
But we're starting to bump into each other a lot more, and we're starting to have questions. Hey, they're buying programmatic. What does that mean? How does that, how do I get paid? Is always I know the folks at the first panel were talking about that as well. So we're definitely bumping into each other, which is why I think conversations like this are important. But right now, it's mostly driven from our central group.
Right.
Yep.
Well, let's go into the future a little bit. I did a blog post a couple of weeks ago where I kind of challenged the industry to think about this as the latest integration challenge, right? In my opinion, we shouldn't have people that are thinking just about programmatic and other people that are thinking just about direct and sponsorships and native stuff, right? We got to integrate that at some point. So this one's for Megan and Vin. Give the publishers and the sales organizations in the room some advice on kind of what should every seller that they put in the marketplace know about programmatic and private marketplaces so they can maybe help move this along?
Well, I think every person, if they're approaching us in the market, should know their full suite of offerings, right? Often we're talking to people on the publisher sales side that are only trying to sell us direct deal. We bring up private exchanges, they'll have to bring in somebody completely different, right? So how we've gone about creating a lot of these deals is we'll actually go through the SSPs and be like, make sure we're talking to the right person. Let's get the deal set up, and we'll go that way because it's more successful than.
So you're going to use a PubMatic as your filter around the marketplace to kind of say.
Because they'll introduce us to the right person rather than usually the person that reaches out to us.
Okay. Ben, anything else to add to that?
I'd agree. I think where we've seen the most success is when you have a sales organization that's empowered to have the conversation from both sides of the perspective, right? To understand how your direct business can actually be supported by your programmatic business and how that drives results in the long term for our clients, which is the end goal of what we're trying to accomplish. So where we've found a lot of success with our partners has been, again, that strategic conversation around what are we doing holistically as a buying unit for our clients from a direct perspective of when you're talking directly to our agencies and how we're supporting that with programmatic initiatives through audience buying as well.
Okay. We got time for a couple of questions before we kind of wrap up here. So do we have microphones? Anyone?
You can just yell.
No.
Okay. David, why don't you just yell?
I'll try to yell.
And I'll paraphrase.
Basically, just want to ask, how important are deal IDs becoming for private marketplaces? And are they simplifying or complicating the process?
How important are deal IDs in these arrangements? And are they simplifying or complicating the process?
They're very important.
Oh, wait, before you do that, can you tell us what a deal ID is real quickly? Again, my 86-year-old mom wants to know. What's a deal ID?
I don't know how to explain it to your 86-year-old mom.
Explain it to me. I'm just a little slow.
Okay. When we create a direct relationship with the publisher, that PubMatic will essentially have to give us and we'll have to align on a deal ID that it allows our DSP and their SSP to kind of communicate and know this is the ID of the deal.
Okay, got it. Okay, so go ahead with the answer to the question.
So yes, you need them. And I think from an operational efficiency standpoint, it's much better than it was when we first launched. In the beginning, we just wouldn't set up as many private exchange deals because it was we had to set up a line item for every deal. Now we can have one across multiple deals, so it's getting better. It took a while.
Okay, fair enough. Any fine points to add on that?
I mean, I'd agree that they're extremely important. It's taken the business to a whole nother level for us, right? But I think there are challenges still today because there is a lack of consistent creation of deal IDs that go differently and transfer information differently from one buying platform to another and from one supply platform to another. But I think over time, they are the mechanism that helps us really understand what the business rules are between the buyer and the seller and how we want to actually transact with each other.
Okay. Other question? Right over here. Can you get a microphone over quickly? Oops.
No. Just yell, Bruce.
Just throw it. It probably won't hit anybody.
Hi, Bruce Budkowski with Dominion Digital Media. My question is for all four of you. I know that there seems to be a very big emphasis in scale when you're talking about the private exchange. So how important is it for a publisher to also be able to break out their site and their impressions into sections or content? Is that something you look for as well so that you can not only buy audience within a certain site, but also break down the sections of the site and just buy certain areas of the site that it might be performing better? I'd like to hear, possibly, if I could, from both the publishers on the panel as well as the trading desk.
Good question.
To jump in from the publisher perspective, at Rodale, we're not a giant portal. We don't have the kind of inventory levels that some that play in this space. So we have to be more careful about it. And I think we go with general categories, so run of site or a run of Rodale, or I think we try to keep it more at that and give the chance for the advertiser to find that match, to find the inventory they're looking for. So we keep it broader, but that may be more particular to sort of the assets that we have. So.
Yeah, I mean, same here. You have to keep it broad, and what we do is based on vertical. So food, parenting, fashion, you name it. Some of those don't scale as well as others, but it just gives another variable for these guys to test and hopefully to generate better ROI and also higher CPM for us.
I'd say exactly the same thing. I think it has to start broad, right? And I think you have to learn from trying to identify where those right opportunities are within your environment, and then you can be more strategic and break it down even further from there on a client-by-client basis. But I think initially you're looking for the broad opportunity to be able to understand where those audiences interact with the brands that we're looking for and how you find that engagement.
So I'm going to be more tactical and operational on that for that question. You need to set up NBC has done a really good job of this because they're concerned about cannibalization, but they'll still share anonymized URLs for each site so that we have it from an optimization perspective. We are going to start broad, but one of those anonymous IDs, which we don't know what the site that is, we may want to bid $20 for because it's working so well. So you do need to do that as a setup, and then depending on the cannibalization concerns, how much you want to share what that ID actually is what you should decide.
So you do look for transparency from the publisher so that they can feed that back to you and help you optimize even in the programmatic space.
Right, and even how I mentioned to do that, that's not even really transparency. It's just like creating IDs.
Right, it was anonymous, you said.
Right, so you can do it anonymously. You don't have to create that transparency, although it would be nice.
I thought you were asking the question for a different reason, Bruce, which was, if we're asking for both who and where, I mean, the deals get very small very fast, right? We can end up having, and I don't think anybody on the panel is motivated to go and do small, tiny little, impression deals that are,
That's right, and from the publisher side, there is a lift, there's a work, there's an investment in breaking down our site to that level, and I'm trying to figure out if it's worth doing that work.
Okay, well, it's a great lunch question. So who else? One more. We got time
Is
for
that
one
an
more
insult?
question. One more question.
You should do the work.
One more up here. Okay, real fast on this one.
Yeah, Megan, you mentioned the benefit of trying to speak with publishers to get transparency on where you sit in their ad stack, the priority
Yes.
levels. What are you doing to check to know where you're actually sitting? Are you actually negotiating a contract up front to say, I'll spend this much money with you in the non-guaranteed
It's a great
private
question.
marketplace space as long as you give me priority one over another trading desk or another DSP?
So you're paying more to sit in first class.
It's a great question. We can't really see, right? We don't have visibility into that. We can only control it from a conversation perspective. So we'll have the conversation with the publisher, we'll ask them, and then we'll see how it's performing, right? Platforms like Right Media actually had user session frequency in it, so you could get to. Also, AOP has this, so you can have a better understanding of where you stand, but PubMatic doesn't have it. It's not passed within MediaMath, AdMeld now. Google doesn't have it. So we're really flying blind, and we just have to trust what the publisher says.
Okay. All right. So I have exactly 2 minutes left here. I'm going to milk those. I'm going to ask each of you to, since you guys are all experienced, relatively experienced in the private marketplace world, a lot of folks in the audience may be standing on the edge of the pool or just early in their experience with it. So I want you to offer one hard fact or piece of advice to the people in the audience, and nobody gets to say the phrase test and learn. And don't flip it over and say learn and test either. So Matt, let's start with you. What's your best hard piece of advice?
I think the private marketplace opportunities are here to stay. They're for real. You need to figure out a way to get involved. I would say as a metaphor, using the pool metaphor, you don't need to do a cannonball off the high dive. It can be more of a quiet walk into the shallow end to test to see what makes sense for your business. But it's a priority, and I think an important one to be involved in that process. And
All right, so your advice is commit. Dave?
Commit.
Yeah, I would say don't lean in, go all in, because it is here to stay. And the one big probably piece of advice is that if you're going to have your salespeople selling this stuff, make sure that every dollar of programmatic they sell is equal commission-wise to anything else that you're selling. There's no reason to devalue it at all, or else it's not going to get sold.
Dollar's a dollar.
Yep. Right. I somewhat agree with everything that's been said so far is just get connected. I mean, right now, there are projections that 80% of all display inventory will be transacted by 2017 through some sort of a programmatic channel. So if you're not playing in the space, you're going to miss out on those opportunities. I'd say in addition to that, get really smart around how do you utilize data and analytics to prove the value of what your inventory is and the assets that you're bringing into the game as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I think create differentiation with your first-party data. Like a lot of publishers have social login on their site. You can use that social login to link that data back to your registration data, to the anonymous data, and create unique audience packages. I don't see enough publishers going hard enough at that.
Yep.
I see publishers trying to resell me third-party data that I'm not going to buy. Right?
Yeah. So add your value before you put the inventory in the first place. Light it up with your first-party data, and go out with a better product to start.
Right, and link it to the registration data. So I'm being link your online and offline data together. You can do it really easily if you have social login on your site.
Fantastic. Big round of applause. Thank you, guys.